The first time I saw Mr. Raymond, he was standing by his porch, staring at the sky as if searching for something lost. His house was the oldest in our neighborhood, a Victorian-style structure with wooden panels that had faded over time. Something about him intrigued me. He lived alone, never spoke much, and rarely left his home except for occasional grocery runs. People whispered stories about him, but no one truly knew his past. One rainy evening, as I was returning from work, I noticed Mr. Raymond struggling with some heavy grocery bags. Instinctively, I ran to help. He hesitated, but eventually nodded, allowing me to take some of the load. As we walked to his house, he finally spoke. "You're new here. What's your name?" His voice was deep yet gentle. "Liam," I replied. "I moved in 3 months ago. And you? How long have you been here?" He gave a wry smile. "Longer than anyone else. This house, it's older than most of the families here." As I stepped inside to place the bags on his kitchen counter, my eyes wandered across the room. The house was filled with old photographs, each capturing moments frozen in time. A younger version of Mr. Raymond stood beside a beautiful woman, their smiles radiant. Another picture showed a small boy, laughing as he played with his dog. "Your family?" I asked, pointing at the pictures. A shadow crossed his face, and he sighed. They were my world. Something about the way he said it made my heart sink. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about him. A week later, I saw him sitting on his porch again, staring at the sky. I gathered my courage and walked over. "Mr. Raymond, would you like some company?" He looked at me and gestured toward the chair beside him. "You remind me of someone," he said after a moment of silence. "My son, Andrew." He had the same kindness in his eyes. I listened intently as he spoke. His wife, Emily, and their son had once lived in the very house I had moved into. Andrew had been a bright, ambitious boy, but one fateful night, everything changed. A fire had engulfed their home, and though Mr. Raymond had managed to save his wife, he had failed to reach Andrew in time. The pain of that night never left him. Tears welled in his eyes as he finished his story. Since then, I've spent every night looking at the sky, wondering if my boy is watching over me. I felt a lump in my throat. "Mr. Raymond, if you ever need anything, I'm right next door." From that night onward, our bond grew stronger. I would often visit him, helping with small chores, listening to his stories, and sometimes just sitting in silence. Over time, I noticed a change in him. He no longer looked so lost. One evening, as we sat together watching the sunset, he whispered, "Thank you, Liam, for bringing light back into this old man's life." Little did he know, he had done the same for me. In Mr. Raymond, I had found not just a neighbor, but a friend, a guide, and a reminder that sometimes all someone needs is a little kindness to heal old wounds. As months passed, our friendship deepened. Mr. Raymond began sharing more about his past, stories of his youth, his adventures, his regrets. He told me how he had once been a traveler, roaming the world with Emily before they settled down. He had a passion for music, once playing the piano in grand halls before life took a different turn. One day, he showed me an old dusty trunk in his attic. Inside were letters, journals, and souvenirs from distant lands. "These are my memories," he said, his voice filled with nostalgia. "I kept them all these years, afraid to let them go." Together, we spent hours reading through his old letters. They spoke of love, dreams, and hopes that had long faded. But as he shared them, I could see a spark returning to his eyes. I encouraged him to play the piano again, and though his hands trembled at first, the music that flowed was hauntingly beautiful. One fateful winter, Mr. Raymond fell ill. His frail body could no longer fight the passing years. I stayed by his side, ensuring he was never alone. He held my hand one evening and whispered, "Thank you, Liam. You gave an old man a reason to live again." The day passed. The entire neighborhood mourned. His house, once a place of mystery, had become a place of warmth and love. He left me a letter, one final piece of his heart. It read, "Dear Liam, you walked into my life when I had lost all hope. You gave me something I never thought I'd find again: family. If you ever find yourself lost, remember, there's always light beyond the darkness. With love, Mr. Raymond." I sat on his porch that evening, staring at the sky just as he had always done, and for the first time I felt his presence beside me, a warmth that assured me he was watching over me, just as I had once watched over him. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales.